Welcome to Star Wars Week here at Capes and Tights, a comic book and pop culture podcast. I'm Justin. That's Adam. This is the podcast. This is the new setup here. First of all, anybody's watching, this is the new Capes and Tights home base setup right here.
Yep.
And then we have Adam working on his. Adam's in the basement now, getting some stuff done. He's got some Star Wars stuff behind him. If anybody's like, you know, the sleuths are out there looking, going, huh?
I know
what's going on there, right?
Is he even putting effort into it? And I'm like,
exactly. Yeah. But yeah, so we're here to talk Star Wars Week. This is our Tuesday episodes. This is our typical episode. There are Star Wars episodes all week for you to listen to, but this is the one that's like technically scheduled, and the other ones are bonus.
Yep.
And so we just thought, what the best is to talk about Star Wars in general. This episode on the podcast, but to get all of the Star Wars stuff we're talking about, check out capesandtights.com, Facebook, Instagram at Capes and Tights Podcast, Twitter's at Capes Tights Pod, but you don't need to do Twitter anymore. We're probably going to end up stopping that anyway. And then, obviously you can find us on Apple, Spotify, and all your major podcasting platforms. But yeah, I don't want to go into the whole, we'll go for hours talking about the whole Twitter fiasco that's going on right now. So we're not going to talk that, but we'll talk Star Wars. Adam, do you like Star Wars?
I was thinking about that leading up to the podcast, and I think I do.
Okay, I just want to make sure we're on the same page here.
Of course. Yes, I am. Like, my earliest memories are Star Wars. My first movie I saw in the theater was Return of the Jedi. I was like, what, 3? Yeah, maybe. And so I didn't even make it the whole way through, but I've been obsessed ever since then. I remember like years of high school of going and spending my lunch in the library reading about Star Wars.
I think obviously George Lucas hoped it would turn into what it turned into, because anybody who starts any project like this hopes that it turns into what it turns into. I mean, you worked for Orno Brewing with me, and Asa started brewing beer. He didn't want it to be any bigger than it is now. And look where he is now, you know, big brewery and all that stuff. Yep. So like the same thing goes with the Star Wars things. I mean, I'm sure George Lucas was like, oh, we'll create this fun thing. I enjoy doing it. And then turn into what it is now, the mega franchise, mega toys, all that stuff. So, but let's get started. I thought, just in case those out there who don't know what Star Wars is, Adam, let's give a little, I'll give a little rundown, just a little blurb from it. So Star Wars is an American epic space opera, which I always forget that that's the actual definition of it, is a space opera, which is amazing. Mm-hmm. They call it a multimedia franchise that was created by George Lucas, which began in 1977 with the film A New Hope, or at the time was just called Star Wars. Quickly became a worldwide pop phenomenon. In 2020, it was totaled value was estimated at $70 billion. Yes, that's with the B, dollars, and is currently the 5th highest grossing media franchise of all time. So, Adam, the funny thing about that is they sold to Disney in 2000. Crap, I didn't even look that up. I forget what year it was. It was 2008. No, 8.
15. Oh no, you're way before that. You're
was
right.
Was it before Marvel? Because it was 2006, maybe. I was meant to look this up too. To Disney. Let's see here. 2012.
Yep.
2012. Do you know how much they sold it for? Did I say that already, or did I?
No, you don't. I'm trying to remember. Was it like 5 billion or something, or
4 billion?
Still though, like holy crap! Like I don't care if it's worth like 8 trillion now. If I wrote Star Wars and somebody was like, "I'll give you 4 billion for that," oh my god!
Yeah, there's no way you say no to that. But in the same sense, I'm thinking to myself, like, they got to steal.
Oh god, yeah.
They got to steal, like, I don't know, 4.05 billion for a company that's worth about 70 billion now. Sure. And honestly, they purchased it in 2012. It was the prequels that had ended, and it weren't very popular, as you can find out in our later episodes on this week. But so it was that. But there's still like action figures, there's comics, there's books, there's the potential of future franchise films and TV shows, and it just seemed weird that, I mean, it's a lot of money, but that's exactly what Marvel was sold to Disney for as well. So Disney got Marvel and Star Wars for $8 billion.
Best deal of the century. God.
Like, oh gosh. So, and then not to harp on it again, but then Elon Musk bought Twitter for $44 billion. That's just, it doesn't mean, I don't feel like Twitter is going to make as much money in the next few years. And then it spanned from 2012 to now. That's 2008 it was right around 2008, 2009 that Marvel bought Disney, or Disney bought Marvel. But from 2008 to now, they made more than $44 billion at Disney for them. So it's just a funny investment to me, but we're not going to get into that.
No, but with Star Wars, I mean, I think you're hitting right at the, like you asked right off the bat, like how long have you been a Star Wars fan? Like the crazy thing with Star Wars is like, it's not only been around so long. I guess it's, again, this is why Disney and Marvel, I think, are a good home for it. But it's like,
yeah,
it's had so many ways that you could engage with it over the years. Like I said, I mean, I remember the movies, of course, but a lot of my memories are the books.
Yep.
During the 90s. I mean, is my big substantial memory. And so, but then other people, it's the cartoons and
video games. It's Lego sets. I mean, there's so many. We've talked about it before and actually brought it up at the comic book shop this past week, which was that the annoying part, because Adam and I talked last week. We talked the Batman movie that we weren't too big of fans of. So I was actually really excited to talk this podcast episode because we are big fans of this. And the shop was talking about how I'm not a big Batman fan. That's the reason I didn't like it, yada, 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 yada. But then I mentioned for some reason it read to that this is going to be someone's Batman movie. Like this movie is a generation's Batman movie. Whether you liked it or didn't, this is the same thing we talked about with the prequel series. It's someone's movie, Star Wars movies. So someone may not even be into movies. It could be the video games. It could be action figures, Legos, board games, all the random crap you have out there that's Star Wars. That could be what they got them into Star Wars. It's not, doesn't have to be the feature what the whole thing was started on, basically, which was the feature film in 1977. There's so many more things. And that goes for anything that's made in the past 30 or 40 years.
Oh, yeah.
Like pop culture phenomenon like this. It's you're going to have toys and collectibles and things like action figures that are worth thousands of dollars or action figures that are worth $3. Like there's just the biggest range of items you can get in this free thing. I mean, you made it though when you have McDonald's giving away your stuff, right? When you have like toys at McDonald's, that's when you made it.
And I think, man, it's just like, again, kind of bouncing off the Batman thing, but I was just going to ask kind of the question of like, what is it that we all love about Star Wars, right? I mean, and Marvel too, but these big ones that, like, I know other people would say I love Batman as much, but the universe doesn't exist like it does for the other ones. But I think one of the first things when you were talking about the description is, and we've said this before, but if you are new to Star Wars, if you're kind of never have dove deep before, it is an American epic space opera, like Justin said. So the thing is, like, it's fun, right? It was fun from the beginning. It's not dark. It doesn't have to make sense. It involves a lot of magic and space and somehow is not science fiction really at all. But I think that's the thing is like, it's a space opera. So a lot of the, like where you said, like, the prequels, we may not think they're the best movies ever in Star Wars, but tell me that wasn't a space opera. It was over the top and hammy and stage actors. I mean, it was like,
I mean, I guess the biggest thing to me is the fact that I don't like opera music. So maybe that's why it's better than an opera than it actually is, because operatic music is horrible. And not horrible, but it's talent for them. But I never it's like singing, it's in another language. It's like, I don't understand why you'd like it, but I do understand
it's I mean, the big thing, it's hyper dramatic. It's so like, I mean, it's ridiculous. It's people singing dialogue. So like, I think if that's what George Lucas thought Star Wars was, then I mean, he actually ended up doing a fantastic job.
Absolutely. And there's an easiness to him of 1977 created this thing, right? Since 1977, there's been 12 feature films. The original trilogy, obviously the prequel trilogy, the sequel trilogy, 2 anthology films in Solo and Rogue One, and then the Clone Wars animated feature film, because there was one that did hit theaters for that as well. That building something that you probably had to scrape together and convince a studio to make this movie, and then cashing in later on for $4 billion. And it's not like you created a company, because LucasArts was the one that sold. Star Wars itself didn't sell for $4 billion. It was LucasArts sold. And they had I remember one of my favorite childhood memories is the Indiana Jones video game for the computer. Where they use this tool on that door and try to open stuff. That was amazing. And that was LucasArts, obviously, as well. But the 12 feature films is a lot of movie to be made from one original story. But then you go into it, there's this Obi-Wan Kenobi that comes out at the end of May is the 16th television series. Too. Yeah, which is you're talking like insane, which is animated movies now up to the fact that there's live action TV shows on Disney Plus, many books by different authors, many comic books over the years, video games, action figures, Legos, and so much more. It also has spawned off 2 many theme park attractions as well. But the ones that are big were Star Tours, which happened from 1987 to 2016, and the new one, which is Galaxy's Edge, which opened in 2019. It's the fact that it's a pop culture phenomenon is a perfect explanation of what it is. And it's one of those things that even we have a coworker, or you have a former coworker now that you've moved away and you don't longer work for them, but with Cassie, who doesn't know a lot of pop culture things. And obviously I'm going to be able to talk to her openly on this podcast because I guarantee you she doesn't listen, but she knows Star Wars. Like, you tell Star Wars to her, she knows Star Wars. There's other things where you're like still jaw dropping, like, how the hell do you not know about this thing? And it's not even like you have to be involved in it, but the fact that you've not known about this thing is fascinating to me. But she knows about Star Wars, and that says something to me. That says that it's transcended basic pop culture fans like you and I to transcend to the entire universe. That you say Star Wars and someone knows what you're talking. They may confuse it with Star Trek, which gets annoyed for most fans, but they know about it. Like, it's a words that they've heard together. Star Wars. And that's amazing.
It's such a distinctly like American cultural phenomenon. I mean, it's just, I think we've talked about it like in The Mandalorian. It's just, you can see how so much of it, even in the early days, plays off like the American West and this kind of, I don't want to say hyper violent, but there's still a lot of disagreement, a lot of violence. And I think now too, that's coming back around full circle, and people are gravitating towards that again, because Star Wars, as we've said, it's taken a much more serious route with some of its themes than I thought it would now.
Yeah, absolutely. And it honestly was cutting edge in the sense of actors, of special effects, they're at the forefront of all of that stuff over the years too. And so I was just thinking that you mentioned the violence and things but I'm thinking like they also had very like black actors and female, like strong female roles. And if that's what we haven't talked yet, you and I, on the podcast about, the sequel trilogy, which eventually we will get into. But there was this discussion about how they didn't need to have strong female role. They could, that's fine, but they don't really needed it. We talked about this in the Ghostbusters episode about how they had to like do strong female roles. And it's like, there were strong female roles in the original Ghostbusters. And the same thing with this. They've had strong female roles from 1977 on, which is in a sense cutting edge because it was before its time in certain spots like that, which is amazing. And they give alien races strong female roles.
And again, like thinking about it within time, like we've said that, the animated series Clone Wars that came out, which like, it seems like it was yesterday. It was definitely not yesterday. No. It happened a long time ago. And it had incredibly strong female characters, and not only strong characters, but ones that developed over years. And I mean, that's where we have a disconnect, but younger fans like love Ahsoka. Like it is the strong female independent Jedi. But like you said, that's been around since what, 2000?
Yeah, I mean, it's insane. In their animation, again, to talk about the cutting edge, their animation was not what you'd normally and typically want to see in animation. Most of us stupidly want it to look realistic. Like the Pixar things are awesome and all of, like, it's like when you see the feathers and you see the hair on someone's back and stuff like that, it's like, okay, you're getting to the point where it's hyper realistic. The cool thing about the Clone Wars was it's very boxy, and it seemed like someone would look at it and go, why didn't you finish it? But it works. That's the thing. It works. It was different. And they were able to make a featured film out of it that made millions and millions of dollars. It's not even just like, okay, it's on some sort of really random, weird back network. It was in the theaters with everything else. And then they've been able to transform over the years to get to people who don't care about the original trilogy. I mean, my wife is one of them. She'll sit down. She sat down and watched the prequel trilogy with us when we did the review. But she, like The Mandalorian, she loved it. Every week when she'd hear the music for The Mandalorian start up, she was like, oh yeah, I can't wait for this episode to start. She didn't watch the Book of Boba Fett with me. I watched that alone. But she was very, 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 very excited for The Mandalorian season 2, and she's excited for season 3 to come up. So they're getting people who aren't even fans too by in some of these, like The Mandalorian, it's a little bit more grounded, or Book of Boba Fett was a little more grounded, like it's more on a planet, not in space as much, which is nice also because she's not a huge into the space and aliens and stuff like that stuff. So, but yeah, I mean, kids, adults, old people, like it doesn't really matter. It's hit everybody. And there's been a couple of, newsworthy stories that kind of like go, oh, Star Wars did something quote unquote bad. But for the years, they've been able to avoid scandals and stuff like that as well. For the most part, there has been things, but it's like, it's been a time it was a good purchase for Disney. I'll tell you that much.
I mean, honestly, I think like the brilliance of Disney with Star Wars is like, I mean, like I said, I mean, you and I grew up watching Star Wars. I mean, it was after it reached a point kind of after the novelization and when stuff wasn't really happening where like, it felt to me like Star Wars was just done, like completely done. And I was okay with that. Like the prequels had been a shot at kind of bringing it back, and people like the cartoons, but I don't know any other company that could have done it. I think it's what you've said before. It's that kind of like their business is creativity. And a lot of other movie companies, like that's not, it's just putting movies out. It doesn't matter what it is. So like, I mean, honestly, I never can say that Disney's done better than George Lucas did because it's his vision. But my God, like I never thought Star Wars would come back ever.
Yeah, and that's the thing, and it makes me think about that too, because we talked about the prequel trilogies coming up this week, and the prequel trilogy this week is that people thought, in a sense, and you can remember this, like it's hard for me to remember this because of how much stuff we talked about. How like we sent notes to each other this week to talk about this podcast, and we're like, holy crap! And it's like I'm excited about the future of what the Star Wars has planned for us. And there's a lot of planning, not a lot of execution yet. Like this is the funny thing about this episode coming out on Tuesday of Star Wars week is that there's a likelihood at Celebration this week we're going to learn a lot more about the future of Star Wars, and we're doing this, so it's fine. So check out Disney or Star Wars Celebration this week because there's probably a lot more information you're going to learn from that. Yeah. And maybe in the next few weeks, Adam and I will do a bonus episode and we'll like break down what happened at Celebration. But was that before Disney purchased Star Wars or LucasArts in 2012 or Lucasfilms is we thought maybe that was the end of Star Wars. Like it really, I mean, it was like one of those things where like George Lucas didn't get out of the prequel trilogy what he wanted or what people thought we wanted. And there wasn't a lot going on. There was a couple of animated shows, like you mentioned, with Clone Wars and stuff like that were pretty successful, but nothing that would break the bank at the time. Disney saw was the future. When did
Clone Wars end?
I looked that up. I wanted to say it was 2000. It was right around that time, I thought, but maybe it was 2016. I thought it was.
There's like you said, there's so many shows I never can remember the dates, but I'm trying to think like how long ago even that gap. But because Clone Wars is really what kept it alive.
Okay, let's talk about this because didn't Clone Wars? As I said, Adam and I just a little thing too. Adam, I have not watched most of Clone Wars. We've watched episodes here and there, but didn't they do a number of seasons and then they canceled it and then brought it back?
Yes, they did. Like quite a bit later. Like a long time later.
And so the original series says 2008 to 2020, but it's not technically that. 2014. So season 6 ended in 2014, whereas season 7 didn't start again until 2020. Gotcha. So they did one extra season in 2020, but 2014 was the last thing that was going on. So basically they had 2008 to 2014 was the original run of Clone Wars. And so with that being said, it's like that was what they had. They had obviously the rights to everything else. So like actually all the stuff that goes along with the feature films, but really there wasn't much. I mean, and then they bought Disney bought it and basically did 2 anthology films, right? Basically, because I'm looking at Force Awakens, all that came out too, but they had plans. Obviously, they had plans to do other stuff with it, but at the time, it was basically not dead in the water. But like, there was no future for George Lucas to do it on his own, for Lucasfilms to do it on their own. Really, it wasn't like they were like, oh, we're gonna do a sequel trilogy, we're going to do all this other stuff, we're going to do TV shows and all this stuff. It was basically like Disney was like, I'm going to buy this because we have a plan for it. And it was nice. It was nice to see, nice to hear.
And I guess my whole convoluted point of that was I didn't get to is I wonder how much Disney saw Clone Wars and was like, okay, because Clone Wars did an excellent job of fixing a lot of the prequels.
Yes.
And I just have a feeling that like, that's where Disney saw that and they were like, okay, we can roll with this because it's nuts as we talk like today about the future of Star Wars. I can't believe how much the prequels and Clone Wars underpin everything. And I think it's so brilliant that they're doing it with stuff like Obi-Wan so that the older guys like you and me are like, cool. And I think that's kind of what we're saying. That's the heart of how they do it so well is they recognize that most people were prequel generation.
Yep. And that we don't have as much of a disdain for it as other people do. No. So like there's people like you and I. Obi-Wan Kenobi show, it's coming out at the end of May. It's for you and I. It's not for the people who absolutely just despise the original or prequel trilogy. And what it is, I'm glad they were able to not give up on it either, Adam. Like the idea that like maybe they would have been like, okay, we're not touching that anymore. Nothing is going to come out of that series anymore. But the thing is that people didn't really like the sequel trilogy either. So it's like, what are they going to do? What's the, again, we cannot harp on the fact that you cannot remake the original trilogy over and over and over again. It happened. We loved it. It's got to move on. It's the same thing with Alien nowadays. As I was like trying to rewatch the Alien series, like Alien 1 and 2 are amazing. Then they fell way off for a while and they were able to come back at the end, but you could never remake Alien 1. You cannot make that movie again and make it as good as it was then. So don't even try. But I'm glad they were able to touch on those things with things like Boba Fett and with things like Obi-Wan Kenobi. Those are the things that they were able to like, okay, let's try these things. In Bad Batch with the animated series, like we're going to touch on those things. Those things existed. They're in the canon. We're going to move on. We're going to do cool things with it. And we're going to try to save anybody who is borderline not liking the original trilogy or the sequel trilogy, prequel trilogy, and do it again. I'm excited for that because that's the huge part for me is the what we have coming is
absolutely.
So it's the thing with Marvel too. It's like my huge Marvel love is like, I'm looking forward to the future of what's going on. If I was a diehard DC fan, it's not harp. This is the token every episode harp on a DC movie is what do you have to hope for the future of DC right now? It's to the point where CW is sold. And this week we found out 2 or 3 of the shows on CW were canceled.
Exactly.
Like, it's so like, what's the future of what do you have to look forward to in the DC television or DC movie world is what the third Wonder Woman movie?
I think last week, like Flash was one of the few DC shows I loved in recent memory. And like, of course, that's the one that's gone.
Yep. And so Flash is gone. Legends of Tomorrow is gone. They canceled. Was it Batgirl or Batwoman, whatever it was? Like they canceled all those series, and it's like, and then you have Ezra Miller shitting the bed on friggin' the Disney, the Flash movie, and you have. They did announce, it was kind of funny. I texted you afterwards of last week that we always have this happen to us, which is the typical recording a podcast once a week kind of thing. Is Adam and I finished the Batman review and we got to the end, we're like, oh, looking forward to what they do in the future, and then literally it was like that Tuesday night when we released the episode, they announced that Batman 2 was coming and so on and so forth. But and the same things that happen with this, we're gonna be like, oh, the this, that, and the other thing has a TBA on it, and finding out in hours or whatever, we're gonna find out that there actually is a release date on some of these things.
They'll like surprise drop a show on us on May 4th, and we'll be like, damn it.
Exactly, right?
Which is I kept thinking that was going to happen, but it's not, because May 25th is actually a huge, significant date with Star Wars 2. So they're not going to change that. But we're going to get some wild stuff on May the 4th, I bet. Yes, I bet we got some crazy trailers.
Well, that's the thing is, so I was listening to, what was it? What was I listening to? Was it it might have been, I listened to the Direct podcast, which is a direct.com has a podcast, and they were talking about how they better come out with some things and some dates and some things that say, hey, this is when this is coming. We've already announced it. So if I talk right quickly, we throw through these things. They have Andor, which obviously we know is coming. It's already filmed. It's coming in August. We know it's coming. You have, which that's basically, it's follow up 5 years before the events of Rogue One. So that's pretty cool. Exciting for that. Ahsoka is coming out TBA. It exists alongside the Mandalorian and the Book of Boba Fett. There's going to be a crossover event, I guess, for that too. So I don't know if that happens. Maybe it happens in Mandalorian season 3, that there's a thing. The Acolyte is revealed to be taking place during the late High Republic era. TBA, Lando. No real information on that one other than Justin Simeon is some of the ones creating it. There's an Untitled series that's reported to happen during the High Republic era, which I think if anybody's watching, there's a comic book behind me here, which is Star Wars High Republic. I do think they're going to use that series to use what's in this comic book to put in that series, which makes a lot of sense. And then we have Mandalorian season 3 and Bad Batch season 2. Those are all things that have been talked about as the TV side. And there's one of those shows has a date.
Yeah.
And so crazy. Hopefully at Star Wars Celebration, they actually say, okay, here's a couple new things, but here's also the things we talked about last year, and here's some dates for them. Because it's just one of those things that like you can always tease us by, tickling our fancy by saying, we're going to do this. Hey, we're going to do a cool, badass Darth Vader thing. And then next year, oh yeah, we're still working on that. Oh, and next year, it's like, you can't do that forever. You can't pull us along. You got to give us some dates.
Well, I mean, it was like the Rian Johnson trilogy that he was going to get to do on his own, which sounds like it's kind of dying.
I think I had that on here as a list, but I also think it's dying in the water as well.
I think,
And so,
but I mean, that for ages, people were excited about that one. Like you said, we can't keep teasing stuff like that too much because I mean, I was super excited about a Rian Johnson series. Whatever people thought about Last Jedi, I think he could really do some amazing stuff.
And I think there's one of those things, something to be said also about giving someone the reins to all three of them. So like, I was listening to a podcast this morning. Yes, that's all I do is I record podcasts, work, and listen to podcasts. That's basically what I do.
Yep.
And they were talking about how John Watts was just pulled himself from the Fantastic Four movie. John Watts did the Spider-Man trilogy that came out recently with Tom Holland. And they said he wanted to step away from doing comic book movies for a little bit, which just makes sense. He just killed it and knocked it out of the park with those three movies. And he's in line to do a fourth one potentially at some point. So maybe he's like, if I do this Fantastic Four movie and then we do the fourth one, all he's going to be doing is superhero movies. Understand? Don't worry about it. No one cares. But they had one guy do three movies. That makes sense to me. And so
it totally
they
does.
Screwed that all up with the sequel trilogy with J.J. Abrams and give Rian Johnson a trilogy. That's fine, but give him the trilogy. Let him finish it out. If you don't like keep switching these things around unless that person decides that they don't want to do it anymore, which I don't know why someone would unless there's creative differences. But
our sequel trilogy too. I mean, of all of them, my God, it was like we had what J.J. Abrams, Rian Johnson, and Ron Howard, which three wildly different kind of visions there for Star Wars. All that would have been great with their own trilogy, and we can, like you said, the prequels, as hammy as they are, like the narrative makes sense. I mean,
well, that's the thing is you don't have different people trying to do their own thing on it. And then what happened was, didn't J.J. Abrams take back over and then he fixed things that Rian Johnson didn't do the way he wanted to? And it's like, no, this is they're the same thing. So like, it's why, like, it's basically a trilogy. When you plan a trilogy, you plan it like a long mini series of a TV show nowadays, right? A lot of miniseries, TV shows, or TV shows in general have different directors and writers for every episode, so they can plan ahead and so on. But they have the same goal in the end. They're going to go from point A to point B. You can't go point A to point B. Okay, I'm going to go back to point A again, and then go back to C, and then go to B. You have to go through it. So if you're going to hire someone, hire one director to do all three of them, which is fine. But we talk a little bit, I think, on our episodes later on this week. Is you don't have to have a trilogy either. Why can't we just have a Star Wars movie that has point A to Z, finish it, and then the next movie ties into that, but it's a different director, it could be a comedy, it could be a freaking drama. Like, let's do this Marvel side. Disney's the one having it. Like, let's do some one-offs like they do with Solo and Rogue One, and do a TV show on Ahsoka, but then put her character in the movie. It's like, figure something out in those aspects of it. I think we can do it. But Johnson, I would love to have him do a whole trilogy. I think he did great.
My dream is for him to do the Old Republic at some point. I doubt that's even remotely a thing, but I just always think of all the sequels when I would watch his. I was like, he would kill it on a dark Sith, Old Republic thing. Like, would be amazing.
And what we have the benefit of it as Star Wars fans is that compared, if you, like I said, we do it a lot on this thing. A lot of our talk on here is the big three banners, which is, Marvel, DC, and Star Wars is really what we talk about the most. And of the other two, most of them have to kind of be in chronological order for them to really make sense. Right. That's what we got. The benefit we have Star Wars, it was created in non-chronological order. Yep. So you can go and do, High Republic, New Republic, Old Republic. You can go all over the place as long as you're explaining to people at the beginning with the Star Wars crawl what's happening. Exactly. So we have a little bit of an idea.
Yep. And what timeline we're on. Yeah.
Exactly. So I have no problem with that, like going way back to the beginning and trying to do something like that and go way into the future and do something with that. As long as they make sense and they're and things are referenced to each other, I'm cool with that. So don't And so I don't think any trilogy is coming anytime soon. I think they're going to do it might be 2030 before we actually get a trilogy movie, without a doubt. Movie. Because they got Rogue Squadron, which is technically still planned for December of 2023 from Patty Jenkins, who did Wonder Woman. Did you watch Wonder Woman 84?
I did not.
It's not worth it. I hate to say it, harp on the whole DC thing. It was weird.
I saw the first place, I saw the first Wonder Woman, and I saw her in Justice League. But
Wonder Woman was pretty good. I did like Wonder Woman. The first one was pretty good for a DC movie. But like that, Wonder Woman 84, it was way. It seemed like we talked about creative people versus business people. It seemed like someone at Warner Brothers was like, people are really into the 80s right now. Let's do a movie in the 80s. And instead of just doing a movie in the 80s, they called it Wonder Woman 1984. It's like, are you serious right now? And so it was a little bit too much like pushing that nostalgia.
And they also chose 1984, which is so, like you said, just kind of let's just make money. People know 1984. Isn't that another story? Yeah, it is.
Yes, like, but it was not good. But not to sidetrack on that. No. Patty Jenkins, who did that movie, is doing Rogue Squadron, which hopefully I think she'll do pretty good at. It's starfighter pilots, or in their wings and boundary pushing, high speed thrill ride. Future era of the galaxy. Excited for that. But then they have releases on 23. They have releases in 2025 and 2027. Which could be movies. They could be, 2025 could be the first of a trilogy. I don't know. But they have dates saved at Disney for Star Wars for those 2 or 3 dates, Rogue Squadron, and then 2 other ones after that. And then, I mean, they've rumored of Taika Waititi getting a movie, which again, I would be for. And you have to go into it knowing it's going to be like a Thor Ragnarok. I'm okay with that as long as it's a standalone movie.
Like, honest to God, what I want more than anything in Star Wars right now is something like funny and light, because I think we've done enough now that we can have fun.
Yeah, like do a random one. It doesn't have to be, because again, what we talked about, someone farts at a funeral. It's one of my favorite sayings I have is it happens. People laugh and joke and things. There's you can joke in the Empire. It's not like every moment of every day is like stern and serious and depressing and
well, it's not like the movies aren't full of ridiculous comedy. Like, I mean, literal like slapstick vaudeville comedy from like the 30s. So, I mean, nobody would be put off by comedy. I mean, Jar Jar Binks is comedy. The droids are comedy, which we talked about, one day.
The droid. So Taika Waititi's movie better have droids in it.
Oh, God, not droids.
So. Honestly, should have R2-D2 and C-3PO. That would be perfect. Other droids too, but like Taika Waititi.
And Jar Jar.
Yes, that would be awesome too. And then supposedly Kevin Feige wants to do a Star Wars movie, which I am all for with. That would be dope.
Totally.
And then also there's a possible droid project at Disney Plus. Like, I don't know if it's gonna be like a film on Disney Plus or a series, but there is a droid project. And some of these might be the same. They're not going to decipher to you what they are. Kevin Feige might have a droid project, or Taika Waititi may have a droid project, but no one's connected the dots yet. So it's possible that's a separate thing, but it could also be one of those other ones. So Disney Plus is a great thing for us. And we talked about that a little bit when we talked about Disney Plus Day back at the beginning of this iteration of the podcast, which was that gives them an opportunity to do things like Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett, Obi-Wan Kenobi, without having to make it a featured film. And I'm that it adds so much more depth to the universe with these projects. And you can do character studies, you can do deep dives. It's so much better.
And frankly, I mean, Star Wars is like, if it isn't the most cutting edge technology in film at the moment, like, it's not Star Wars. So like, nobody but Disney could do it, right? We've talked about that. Like, we forget that like the first Star Wars coming out changed everything about special effects. The prequels coming out changed everything about digital movies and digital effects. The new sequels, I don't know that they changed much, but we're in a weird technological time.
Except for doing freaking red herrings and pulling the rug out from under you. I like that. I am a fan of every Star Wars movie. There's not one where I'm like, I cannot watch this movie. And I am a fan of the idea that they gave us something more that we probably wouldn't have gotten. So the sequel trilogy wouldn't have been there if Disney didn't buy it. So I'm kind of happy that it's there. However, they did do a lot of Luke Skywalker is going to be in this movie. And then like the end of the movie has him in it. And then like he dies. And it's like, oh my gosh, like at least we got Leia for most of it, which is great because again, she passed away. Carrie Fisher is no longer with us, but like, it was just kind of the funniest thing that it was like, oh my God, Luke Skywalker, oh my God. What the hell? There's like no Luke Skywalker in this movie.
And frankly, like, unless we're going to find out some like super shocking news, why did we call the last movie The Rise of Skywalker? Because it was literally not Skywalker. I get that like she feels like that, but like, that's I get it. Who else would you want to be? But like, I just felt like that end to call the movie The Rise of Skywalker. And I'm like, it's not, it's The Rise of Rey.
Yes, exactly. It's because I worked Skywalker. They knew it would test well. And we actually didn't talk about it in our Revenge of the Sith one, but it was supposed to be Revenge of the Jedi originally, and they changed it to Return of the Jedi because Jedis don't get revenge. Yeah, right.
Or do they?
But it's here's my thought on some of this future stuff as we get into it and talking about, because we'll get into we talked to prequel trilogies for Star Wars Week this week, but that was mainly the decision we made because of the fact that Obi-Wan's coming. So it's kind of like a long 3-episode preview into Obi-Wan, the show. I felt weird if we did the original trilogy and then we did the prequel, did it differently. And then we didn't get these reviews in before Obi-Wan started. But the future, going into the future, is bright, in my opinion.
Yep.
But what I'd like to see, Adam, now that this comic books out there, so the Star Wars comics. So I'll run down quickly what they are. The current running ongoing series at Marvel Comics is obviously they're the ones that produce it. They have the Star Wars one by Charles Soule, which is amazing. Star Wars Bounty Hunters, which focuses on Boba Fett, Bosk, and a couple other bounty hunters. They have Star Wars Darth Vader, which obviously ding 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 is focused around Darth Vader. Fantastic. Star Wars Dr. Aphra. Okay, those four are the ongoing series. They all happen at the same time, and they're all crossover, so they're one universe. So like one's focused on Dr. Aphra, but she interacts with Darth Vader, and Darth Vader interacts with Luke Skywalker and all them. And they all take place between episodes 5, The Empire Strikes Back, and The Return of the Jedi. To take in between those two movies. But there's also the crossover event Crimson Reign. There's Harrison Legacy. New one just came out a couple weeks ago, Han Solo and Chewbacca, and then the new one that comes out tomorrow, this new comic book day on May 4th, is Obi-Wan Kenobi as well. So those are the series that are going on right now. What I'd love to see is, can we put a movie? I mean, I know it's hard to say with obviously Luke Skywalker and stuff like that, but so if you take Bounty Hunters, for example, or Dr. Aphra, right? We haven't been introduced to Dr. Aphra yet because she actually was first appearance in a comic book, which is this comic book right up here. If you're watching Darth Vader comic book right there. Can we put a standalone movie that comes out in 2025 per se, that is based around the comic books that's between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi? Is it possible for us to do that without, because obviously it's harder because in the comic books, Dr. Aphra does at some point interact at some point with Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader and all that stuff. But I guess Darth Vader could be anybody, right? Because it doesn't have to, like, Darth Vader could be alive and in a suit and be voiced by James Earl Jones or anybody really. And you could do Dr. Aphra could easily be in there. She interacts with Crimson Reign or with Crimson Dawn, which obviously you now get what's her face from Solo to be in it. So like a Dr. Aphra thing, to me, I like Dr. Aphra. That's why I purchased. This is a very, very, very expensive comic book. I purchased it because I'm excited for Dr. Aphra to come in here. She's a doctor, but she's a thief. And she kind of reminds me of like a space Indiana Jones kind of thing. So do you think that it's possible for them to go, or do you think that the original trilogy beginning to end, 1977 to the end of it, is like so untouchable now for feature films at least?
Honestly, I mean, my opinion, no. I mean, I think they need to fill in all the gaps. I mean, the reality is the original Star Wars is canon and it's great. It's 3 movies that were made in the late 70s and early 80s, which might as well. I mean, imagine when we were kids, right? Like, my God, that would have been a movie made back in like 1910. So I think we have to acknowledge that, like, I love the original stories. They are the core of the canon, but they're old, they're outdated, and they don't connect to the younger viewer. So yeah, I think they need to go crazy fleshing that out. And maybe that's how we make it not so Skywalker focused. Is to say like, well, the reason we're doing this is because these movies make you think nothing else is happening. And actually, like, there's so much stuff happening. So yeah, I think they should mess with it all they want to. I have the original trilogy on tape. I don't have to watch anything else if I don't want to.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing, is people can actually do that. It's not like they can't. It's not like we get rid of the movies. And so, like, if you think about it, I'm looking at this. I have the timeline on my screen here. It's a lot of the stuff we've gotten so far: Solo, Rogue One, the Obi-Wan show that's coming out, Bad Batch, Rebels, and even Andor, which is coming out this summer. All take place just before, if not a little farther before, Episode 4. So A New Hope. Rogue Squadron is supposed to come out. It's supposed to be between episodes 4 and 5 as well. And then that's it. So I do think that there could be an opportunity right there to do shows like a Dr. Aphra show, or, a Crimson Reign, or any of those shows on Disney Plus in between those two, to kind of give us a filler in that. And then everything else has either been back towards the original trilogy or ahead towards the sequel trilogy. Like Mandalorian happens between 6 and 7. Boba Fett's between 6 and 7. Even the Droids show was between 5 and 6. Ahsoka is between 6 and 7. Rangers of the New Republic, which has been canceled, between 6 and 7. And then obviously Resistance happens between 7 and 8. Sorry, 6, 7, 8, and 9, I should say. Galaxy's Edge. So they put Galaxy's Edge on the timeline. That's pretty funny. Like, that is pretty funny. It happens at a certain time. Dude.
I've already told Annie, like, I've looked up what the highest tier stay at Galaxy's Edges, and we're just going to do it. So
take a small loan out, sell a kidney, whatever you need to do.
Yep.
But just the thing is, as a comic book fan and as a person, they've created these I mean, this is not the only one. You're talking about books too. They've created books and comic books and stuff that go around, but then it seems like they only live in that section. So I feel like some of this stuff we should pull from. Like, why would, if we're pulling we're recently, so America Chavez is coming into the Marvel Cinematic Universe this coming weekend at Doctor Strange. She was created in 2012. And so it's like, it's a current comic book. So why can't we pull some of these current iterations? This Dr. Aphra, who was created way later, and maybe it had been in George Lucas's mind at some point, but like made it into a comic book, got her first appearance in there. Again, strong female role would be fun. I think they know how to do an Indiana Jones style movies over at, Lucas. But pull from the comp, don't pull an entire different story. Like pull the idea from this physical book that I've read. Obviously not word for word because it gets boring, but like,
I think we're going to start seeing that. I don't know. I mean, I've been reading actually Darth Vader and I'm seeing but looking at Obi-Wan and what they're talking about, it seems to me that like it's springboarding hard off of Darth Vader and Jedi Fallen Order.
Yeah.
So a lot of the Inquisitors that are going to be big in the Kenobi series were really, they were in the animated series too, but they were also in Jedi Fallen Order with a bit like darker, more Disney level version of them. So like, I feel like if they're starting to draw from the video games, they're going to start pulling heavy. I think Obi-Wan Kenobi might be the series that starts opening that gate a little bit.
And so here's we're going to go back and get Darth Vader again. And whether it's, we don't know fully yet. So we talked, it's kind of funny because we're doing our whole Star Wars ways. This episode was recorded after all of our prequel trilogy episodes, and at the end of episode 3 review, we talked about what's the hope for Obi-Wan Kenobi. It has been verified now that what was that we talked about, that there's not gonna be in it. Qui-Gon Jinn is not. He's not in that, and he won't be in he won't do another Star Wars thing unless it's a movie. You said that recently
on a recent podcast or something. Yeah, and I get that. I mean, I understand
it's Liam Neeson. Like, it's like financially, why would you do it? Kind of thing. Take time off, and
I totally understand. Like somebody with a pedigree like his, I get it. It's like he doesn't want to change his brand. I get it.
But there's that, and there's other stuff like Darth Maul was never supposedly supposed to be in this movie. He was never filmed. He was never thing. It was a rumor that was out there, never went out there. And Darth Vader was the Darth in this entire thing. And so my thing is like whole possibility why Simpsons has gone on for so long is it's animated. You literally can get anybody to do the role. Family Guy is now 20 seasons. Mila Kunis is Meg on Family Guy. She wasn't Meg in the first season. So like, it's possible to just change these out. Why can't we get any random person to play Darth Vader in his suit and put him back in a movie?
Well,
like,
I think you're onto something there, which is like you just mentioned a few minutes ago. Darth Vader, I don't think is going anywhere because they don't need any physical actor to play him. And like you said, it's a robot modulated voice anyways, so anybody can do it. And so AC/DC, the band, replaced their singer with a new singer that sounded just like AC, which is insane because he sounded like the most unique voice of a singer in the world. You can get someone that sounds like James Earl Jones with the modulator on his mouth. Like, it doesn't have to be James Earl Jones either. It'd be cool until he passes to have him do it. But it doesn't have to be him. It can be computer generated from anybody's voice because like, it's not really, I mean, James Earl Jones is the icon, but
I'm not trying to replace him. I'm just saying it's possible when he passes that it's possible for someone else to do it.
I was laughing at that podcast you were talking about because he's like, oh no, I'd like to wait for a feature film. And the guy that's watching it with him is like, he was in Family Guy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. But the Yoda can be anybody. The droids can be anybody. Like, you can introduce, and I also would love to have movies that happen along the side that know Luke Skywalker's in the universe. But he's not actually in the actual movie. Like, you don't have to have him in there. He can maybe speak on you can get Mark Hamill to do some sort of communicator thing where it's like he says something to someone, but you don't actually see him. And it's like, you could do those kind of things and do a kind of cool TV show that it's based around. I mean, the universe is supposedly massive, the Outer Rim and all this other stuff. Like, you don't have to have, like, you could do it within it. So when you see Darth Vader, because that's the other thing is like with the Darth Vader comic book, which I love about, is the Darth Vader comic book is his own point of view, which you don't really see that much in the movies. Like, you see points of him by himself, but like we follow Luke Skywalker the most out of it. So what's Darth Vader doing when Luke Skywalker is doing his thing. And that's what I'd love to see in a Darth Vader style show with this, whether it's Darth Vader by himself or Darth Vader in a Dr. Aphra or something like that as well.
And I think something, I mean, we've talked about it before too, is that there's this weird kind of different camps in Star Wars, always has been, of the Outer Rim, which represents very much like the modern, or the historic West rather. But we've also got these like massive cosmopolitan city planets like Alderaan or, you know, Coruscant or any of those. And like they never do anything with that except for the prequels, right? And that's another reason I think the prequels, well, they do some in the sequels, but we're so jarring. Like, you don't realize that almost all of Star Wars takes place on backwater planets and moons. And so I think that's interesting moving forward too, is are they going to start bringing in non-Outer Rim stuff?
Yes. I think like some of it is they're too afraid to touch something.
Yep.
Piss off the people. So, I mean, what would you like more? Like, so we talked, there's two ways I would like to do this. One, if we were, so you, Adam, you and I are in charge of Star Wars now. Okay. First of all, you're all screwed because Adam and I do not know how to run movie franchises. We think we do. We don't. Second of all,
I think we do.
Is two things that Star Wars needs to do. And I think they've been doing a great job. I don't think it's nearly it's not. So if I had to pick it, my Marvel Cinematic Universe, my Star Wars universe, my DC universe is below that. So like it's definitely up with Marvel.
Right.
Either go back and give us some of our childhood back with Star Wars original trilogy by adding some movies and TV shows that go in between 4, 5, and 6, or forget Skywalker trilogy thing altogether.
Yep.
Like you can touch things here and there, but like let's move past it then. Let's go to far in the future or far in the back before Skywalker was ever even a blink in someone's eye, and touch that for a little while to see what we're talking about now in the Star Wars universe. Because I feel like even though I love The Mandalorian, I love the Book of Boba Fett, like I love the movies, those TV shows, it was like they used special effects to get someone back in the movie because I think people wanted to see Skywalker again. We didn't have to have, like, we liked it. I liked it. Again, this is not me complaining about it. This is me saying it didn't need to be there. I would have loved Book of Boba Fett and I would have loved Mandalorian if Luke Skywalker never saw an appearance in that entire show. Yeah.
I mean, I think that's, man, there's so many ways they could do it. I agree on like the older stuff, like you're with the, maybe something fun would be, you know, like an only practical effect show.
Yep.
That would took place in the original trilogy era, or maybe make that your thing. Everything that takes place in the original trilogy era is all practical effect. It's much smaller. It doesn't get into the big galaxy building. I would be all about that. I mean, or even in the big places, think about like a Star Wars Hawkeye set in Alderaan, right? A much smaller story about actual day-to-day life, dealing with your family, because we don't see that in Star Wars really ever.
No, a sitcom would be great.
Yes. Like, oh my God, in Alderaan, like
like those are the kind of things that you mentioned that I think they could definitely do, and they have the ability to do it. They could go with the whole Marvel Cinematic Universe style, where it's like crime movie and heist movie and comedy movie and drama and film noir and it could be a bunch of different kind of style movies in the same universe with the same connective tissues, same storylines. You can, like I said, you can mention people, but
imagine our prequels, like we were talking about the other day, like just do a sitcom in that diner that's apparently run by a guy that has better connections than like Darth Maul. So like that sounds like a fantastic story.
So yes. And here's the deal. They also have the ability to pull in games, comic books. Like you have the ability to do like, you would be awesome. So we have Star Wars that is a movie originally, right? Like the first thing was a movie back in 1977. You've had amazing video games come out of the Star Wars universe. So it's the thing that Hollywood has not been able to figure out, is to do the transition backwards from an amazing video game into an amazing movie. Taylor and I watched Uncharted. It was pretty good. I never played Uncharted, the video game, so I can't do that connection to it. It was pretty good, but it wasn't a stellar video game movie that it should have been.
Having played every one of those games and not seen the movie, I would say I bet you're 100%.
They have not been able to do that yet, where they take a movie video game. Here's the thing. Can we go backwards now? Can we now take a video game that was created by Lucas Arts and make a movie or TV show based on the video game and say, not only are we able to do the opposite, but Star Wars is here to tell you, screw all you guys, we can do it better than you can, and by taking a video game and make it into a movie.
And it'd be insane if they didn't do Jedi Academy, which is a super famous game that also has a novel, that 3 of them that it's based on. I know, I'm always like, I just think of the gold mine that they have, and I'm like, oh my God, just do that. Or like, just do Knights of the Old Republic.
Yes.
Don't even change it. Just make it a movie. Do the exact story. I'm in.
Well, I've never understood why they don't do that in the first place. I think it has to do with writers' egos, and I don't want to make fun of too many writers, but the writers' egos, they have to make it their own thing. Like, there's so many different, like, if they made a Grand Theft Auto movie, I'd want it to just be one of the storylines from one of the Grand Theft Autos acted out with small tweaks here and there. Maybe some people's names changed or people's like whatever locations or whatever. But like, why they don't just do that? Why they create a movie, Assassin's Creed, and then they create an entire different thing that go along with it. It's like, okay, so you called it Assassin's Creed to try to get the video game people to watch it, but then didn't do anything with it that actually made sense to connect it back to.
And I understand, like, Knights of the Old Republic is hard because it had 2 endings depending on how you play the game. So which one would be canon? So none of it. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Just do one. Just decide.
Or film both of them. And at the end of the last episode, the last 2 episodes, you can either go to episode A or B and have 2 different endings to the movie or TV show that you want in it.
Exactly. And it's fine. And then they just won't connect it in any further ways so that you don't have to worry about which ending happened. Yeah. But like, that could be the kind of innovative stuff that, we joke about, where people are like, I'm so mad because whatever, I wanted Jar Jar Binks to be a Sith Lord. Right. But my thing is like, that's cool. Do that. I think that Jar Jar Binks is a Sith Lord ever since that story. I can't watch that movie without thinking that. That's okay. Like,
how about so they did Visions? Did you see any of the Star Wars Visions stuff that came out last year?
I did. I watched a few of them. Well, I watched all of them, but
that's basically Marvel's What If, in a sense, like give someone the ability to do like TV show where it's like an anthology TV show. Every episode's different.
Yes,
and every episode's like, what if Darth Vader didn't go dark? Like, what if Luke Skywalker ended up going dark, or what if the droids took over the world, or whatever it may be? That'd be fun to do too. So there's definitely a lot of avenues they could go into. So Adam, I didn't play many of the video games. Now that we're speaking about video games,
I played them all.
So I played the first Lego Star Wars, which, here's the deal. It's one of those weird things in the world that you'd think that Lego games would suck. Like, you'd think in your mind
they decided they do not, though. Yeah,
it's unbelievable how well they've been able to make a Star Wars game or Lego games. Like, how many people that I know are like gamers beyond gamers?
Yeah,
have you played the new one? No,
Skywalker, the Skywalker Saga. Everybody's losing their minds about it. And I played it. It's Lego game, but like,
it's a Lego game. Like, I can't get over the fact that it's Legos in a game. It's amazing to me. It's fascinating to me that they were able to do that and connect those tissues of Legos versus Star Wars. But it's fascinating. So, recent games that come out were Jedi Fallen Order, right? 2019, Battlefront 2, and Battlefront obviously came out a while ago. Battlefront 2, I've heard good things about, somewhat good things about.
Well, Battlefront is a multiplayer is great.
Yeah, Lego Star Wars had Skywalker. They did a Force Awakens in 2016, and then they had the Skywalker Saga in 2012, and then they had Star Wars Squadrons that came out last year, 2 years ago. But I haven't played much. I played a little bit of Battlefront 2 back in the day, back in 2017, and I don't think I played Force Awakens. I only went back a few years. This whole recent games. There was obviously Lego Star Wars games from farther back too, but and in development right now is Jedi Fallen Order sequel. Supposed to come out in 2023.
Yeah, it's certain that I bet will be amazing. The first one was just outstanding.
Trailer for Eclipse, Star Wars Eclipse, and then Knights of the Old Republic remake, and then a Ubisoft as an open world game. That's another one I don't understand. Like, most of these things that could do well. Like, I would love a Marvel Cinematic Universe or Marvel open world game, and I would love a Star Wars open world game, which kind of would make sense to me. Like, you don't have to interact with. Again, it can be placed in the Star Wars universe, and you don't have to ever really interact with Darth Vader and all these other people. You just happen to be in the cantina and you see droids and you travel.
And the open world game, which is is Ubisoft. It's been kind of pre-announced, but like, that has been, oh God, that's like the holy grail of Star Wars. And I don't know, did you play Star Wars Galaxies, the MMO game that came out back? So it wasn't long lasting, but it got rave reviews. And I think if they could ever pull something like that, not an MMO, but an open world game, it would be great. I mean, Galaxies was exactly what you said. Like, you could literally play the entire game for years selling shoes. You could be like, I'm the best shoemaker on this planet. People came to your store, or you could maybe be a Jedi. It was kind of random though, how you became a Jedi, which was great. And how fun would that be? Where like you can play anything.
Yes. Like, but so favorite games, like if you just go, classic, non, like, oh, see, Grand Theft Auto, when they came with Grand Theft Auto 3,
fantastic.
From that point, was it 3 or 4? 4, right? Because the first 2 were the ones that were the top-down view, and 3 was the one that was actually the first one that was actually like a real game, like a full-on, right? Or was it 4?
Yes, it was 3.
3, and then but they're unbelievable. The fact that you could, like, literally, I used to spend weekends just driving and like doing random shit, like not even like progressing my game any further, robbing banks and shooting people and sleeping with hookers, and it was fascinating what you could do. And then honestly, same company, Rockstar, with Red Dead Redemption,
one of my favorite games ever.
The fact that you can ride a horse across the thing. I would love to get in a spaceship in the Star Wars universe and just fly and not see anything, just flying.
Just give me Red Dead Redemption with spaceships and Star Wars places. Like, you don't new stories, of course, but you don't have to change a single thing. Use the same engine, the same people.
And you can make smaller planets. Like, you almost come up with Star Wars Coruscant or Star Wars Tatooine, and it's like the apps that each you have 3 games planned. The first one's different planets, or you do like 3 planets are in one game, and you can fly from planet to planet. And the game, the planets can be not that big, so there isn't like it's open world, but it's like there is one point you would do wrap around the other side of the planet or something along those lines. But I feel like that, and honestly, there's not to get off tangent here, but I've always wanted a Walking Dead open world game.
Oh, like, absolutely.
Like, imagine that, just having it be like, you're a person, you're a zombies, here's your like civilization that you're trying to create, and you're trying to go from point into different camps, and zombies could attack you along the way. And
you can join the different camps, you can join the governor, you can join whoever, but like that would be excellent in open world where, like, well, actually, let's look at a great example, Skyrim, right? So like, which is Ubisoft, if you see where I'm going with that. But
yes, exactly.
But I mean, God, the stuff you could do in that game was insane. I mean, drilled down to like being exactly the type of character you wanted to be, with these, like, you join the Thieves Guild and you play the whole game as a thief.
Yes.
Like, that as Star Wars would be excellent. Like,
and I don't understand it. It's cheesy, but like, so Rockstar signed on to partner with Ubisoft or whatever, and they just took the same engine, someone had to design things to go around it, exact same engine, exact same everything. You just have new graphics. It would make it easy to do. I say easy. I'm not a video game creator, so I'm going to dumb that down. But I think there's a future in it. I think that, here's the thing: Star Wars has not missed on this. I think the one thing that I will say, Star Wars has done a lot better than a lot of other companies in the pop culture mega franchise thing, is make good video games. Whereas Marvel has done somewhat with like the Miles Morales with Sony, and the Spider-Man with Sony. But other than that, I mean, I've heard some good things. I have the Guardians of the Galaxy game. I haven't played it yet. I've heard some good things about it, but like, Avengers was not good, and they've never really done much else. I mean, since the Carnage Super Nintendo game, right?
Some good stuff.
Red cartridge is Carnage game. But like, why they can't? Some companies can figure it out, some companies can't. But Star Wars has definitely been one of those ones that's like, if you're not a fan of Star Wars since the original trilogy, you can tell that they've made do.
Yes.
Like, made do since then. So you're talking like, the prequel trilogy might not have been your favorite, but they did a good job and made a bunch of money. Sequel trilogy, she may not be your favorite, made some money. The video games, the comic books, the books, they've done well at everything. Maybe not perfectly, but they've done well at everything. And so that's the funny thing about Star Wars compared to everything else.
With their video games, like we said, is the one thing that it did kind of change for a while was LucasArts used to be so controlled with the games, right? How they fit in, and then we had that weird period where Star Wars games literally became like kind of the poster child for bad video games. But it really now seems to be coming back around to them understanding that, like, if they don't play with the movies and the comic books, it's not going to work. That's what people want. Like,
I mean, the epitome of Star Wars video games is the Pod Racer video game. Let's be honest. Like, that's just where back in the day. But it's just kind of funny. So again, touching all the different things we talked about, we didn't even get into action figures and toys and all that stuff. Like, we're just talking about multimedia part about it. Just the actual, I think that the missed opportunity. Let's make a Darth Maul movie or TV show or
something.
Oh, just call it the Darths, and we'll just put all Darth things in it. It's anthology episodes. Every episode, 6 episodes, all about a different Darth. Darth Sidious gets its own episode.
A Crimson Dawn series would be the bee's knees.
And you already have the basis to go around with the Solo movie. Like you have that ability to have something to base it off of or continue on from is the Crimson Dawn in that aspect of it. And it's back. So they went away in the comic book for a little while. And then in the more recent issues of the comic book, it's back. And people are like, oh my gosh, Crimson Dawn is revitalized or whatever. So now it's back again in the public eye on that side of it too. And they sell quite a bit of comic books. So I don't understand why you couldn't connect them in a way too. It's not like we make this because we can make it. They sell quite a bit of issues, and the value of them are going up and up and up.
And they're really
this one.
They're excellent comic books. I mean, they're really well done.
Mm-hmm. And honestly, Charles Soule, I would love if Charles Soule wanted to write a TV show for Marvel or for Disney, for Star Wars, because he's a great author as well. He does a bunch of cool things. He's also done this curse words book that was really well, and he's got a new one coming out called 8 Billion Genies, which is basically if every person on Earth had their own genie that gave them one wish. And
that's funny.
It's 8-issue series about how the impacts of the world would be entirely different, because you could be like, I want everybody to be male, and then I'm like, I want everybody to be female, and so like how quickly you'd waste your
spins out of control.
How quickly that could go. And if someone's like, oh, I'm gonna wait and save mine, but someone immediately goes, oh man, I wish I had a pizza, and they wasted their wish on a pizza. And it's just funny how different the world would be with this whole everybody had a genie thing. So that's pretty cool. But he also does Star Wars really well, which is a little bit more, like I hate to say grounded, but there's a little bit more, I don't know, story to that than there is the 8 billion genies.
Oh, absolutely. And that's one, any listeners, definitely go check out the comic books if you don't I think they're almost all on Marvel Unlimited now.
Yes. Yep.
Even Old Republic, which of course, buy comic books and support your local comic book shop. But if you're on the fence, go read them on
it's worth it.
Marvel Unlimited, and then you'll start buying the comic books. So
and like this one, went out and said this is not worth a ton right now. This is the High Republic. One, but I got it back at 9.8, which is basically, your high grade. I mean, there's not very many 9.9s or 10s out there. And the reason I did this is that I read this book digitally on Marvel Unlimited. And but this book, they could make a movie based off of this one. So I was like, I got to put this in plastic and get it all set up. And they sent it back at a 9.8, which I was pretty pumped about for sure. So you can listen to a graded episode to find out more about graded comic books.
I just thought to correct myself from earlier. I said with Ubisoft, I was like, oh, Skyrim. Ubisoft doesn't make Skyrim. No. It just Ubisoft makes Assassin's Creed. So that's just my self-correction on.
Great movie, by the way. Assassin's Creed, best movie ever.
Oh yeah.
No one's. Wait, I'm shaking my head, and most people listen to this episode. I'm saying no.
Yeah, no.
You can't see my head shaking. No. But so otherwise, the Star Wars universe is crazy. So check out, Celebration is this week, the first week of May. They're going to announce a bunch of more stuff. We'll be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe we've missed this. But check out our episodes this week with we did. I personally talked to Tony Fleece, who does art on Star Wars Adventures. We did a fun facts episode. We have this episode coming out tomorrow on Wednesday. Since this episode comes out on Tuesday, on Wednesday, May 4th, May the 4th be with you, is episode 1, and then episode 2 the next day, episode 3 the next day, and then Solo with special guest Gibran Graham from the Briar Patch in Bangor. And then, then we're back at the normal stuff. But I think next week we're going to try to talk Moon Knight. But it's a fun time this week to talk about Star Wars. I'm so pumped about seeing what's going to happen. People posting things, and I can't wait till Wednesday, May 4th, because people posting May the 4th be with you. It's just a cool worldwide. Honestly, no one else has. There's no DC, oh my gosh, it's DC Day or even Marvel Day or whatever.
Even
Star
Marvel,
Wars is the one that gets their own day.
Well, you just
every year.
You're going to get some just bananas trailer drop on May the 4th. It might just be one of the series, but it'll be something huge. I wonder if we'll get an expanded Obi-Wan trailer.
That's interesting. I was wondering that too, or if they'll be all of a sudden, I know, bam, it's Rogue Squadron, big, huge that we didn't know was happening, or something along those lines. Or it's just gonna be a sizzle reel. It's gonna be a sizzle reel like Marvel did a little while ago with Disney Plus, a bunch of different Disney Plus things. You're like, oh my gosh, they're doing this, they're doing that, and they're doing this. It's just pretty cool. So, but yeah, Adam, Star Wars. Everything's great. It's been amazing. I love talking Star Wars. We're not going to stop this either, because I think we also are planning a not Star Wars week, but 3 episodes in a row this summer that will do a Rogues. No, sorry, not 3 episodes. 1 episode to get us ready for Andor, which will do a Rogue One episode, which will be a fun one, because that honestly, out of all 12 movies that have come out, I think Rogue One is up there with my top favorites.
Oh, absolutely.
Top 3, top 4 favorites Star Wars movies of all time. So,
and one of these days I'll get my review of Star Wars games in line once I actually live somewhere and am in an office for a while.
And we'll be posting some articles soon about that stuff. Once they get the blog section back up on the website correctly, we'll be doing some things like a watch list on how to watch things like Clone Wars. If you don't want to watch the whole thing, these are the key ones you need to see and so on. And some of these smaller shows like Bad Batch, I love the show. Don't think we'll have to do a real episode on it, but maybe we'll have a quick couple of paragraphs about what we liked about it or didn't like about it and so on. So we'll get better at all that stuff too. But Star Wars is here to stay. So I think for us, it's basically Marvel, Star Wars, and DC is our big 3 with other fun guests that are coming in. Because I've got a couple of independent writers coming up here pretty soon too. So we're just excited to talk about that. And The Last Ronin dropped last week, so we're excited about finishing that. So, but yeah, cool. May the 4th be with you, buddy.
And also with you.
Yes, exactly.